What's up, everybody? Dieter Kurtenbach here. Welcome to the Line Movement NBA show. It's been a while. It's been a minute. We had an act of God with the guru, Matt LaMarca. People up above spiting him for picking too many winners. Matt, the power is back on. How you doing, man? How's Long Island treating you?
So good. So good now. For a while there, I thought like, all right, this is not bad. But by about day 2, without the air conditioning, I was like, I may as well be living in 1700. Like, this sucks. I hate it. And I was lucky enough to have a generator. So I still had some semblance of modern life. And even that, I was like, nope, I'm out. This sucks. But we're back. We're good to go. I got to get those picks off.
Good.
I had to move to a different location for a little bit, but we're okay.
Nothing can get between this man and the picks that make you money. Let's just go over what we've missed, though, over the last week or so. The Phoenix Suns are going to be the NBA champions. TJ Warren is the new LeBron James, and the Philadelphia 76ers are in complete disarray. The bubble is acting all sorts of crazy, as we expected. Let's start with the Suns, undefeated in the bubble so far as of the time we're talking. Obviously, they have the talent. I don't think undefeated was ever in the cards for them. What the hell are you seeing out of the Phoenix Suns? Explain this to me, Matt LaMarca. Why are the Suns the best team in the NBA right now?
I can't explain it. And the numbers back it up. In terms of net rating, they're right behind the Boston Celtics at the moment. So they're good. They're playing very well. They've gotten some scheduling help. Today they played the Thunder, who rested, half their team, it seemed like. Tomorrow they're also going to get a benefit when they take on the 76ers, who are resting or have half of their team hurt. So that's what makes this bubble situation weird, is we're getting the normal NBA end of season hijinks, but we're getting them like on steroids because there's no home court advantage this year. So normally teams that would be jockeying, to get up a seed or two in the standings, now it's like, yeah, whatever. We're playing in Orlando anyways.
Right. You look at the Western Conference standings, there's a lot going on there. And certainly you can make the argument that some of these teams want to set themselves up for nice matchups, right? Like, they're not going to get home court advantage at any juncture, but they might want to set themselves up for a better first round matchup. And maybe, if they're so greedy, looking forward beyond that. You look in the Eastern Conference, though, it seems pretty set in stone. I mean, the 4 and the 5 and maybe the 6 are still there, but the Sixers seem fairly content with that 6 seed. They're resting Joel Embiid. And as you mentioned, you already have Ben Simmons out for the rest of the year with a knee injury. I think that they've kind of, thrown in the towel a little bit here. They'll figure out where they're at next year. Heat and Pacers kind of jockeying for that 4-5, but who cares? They're probably going to play each other anyway. But then you go to the Western Conference, and Lakers, Clippers, they're 1 and 2. But then you got Nuggets, Rockets, Thunder, Jazz, Mavericks are out of it, but you have a nice amount of jockeying there. That number 3 seed, that number 7 seed really looks like the interesting matchup there. I think the Mavs feel comfortable with where they're at 7, whereas the Jazz, where the Jazz are at 6, wanting to play the Nuggets, whereas the Mavericks want to move up so that they can get the Nuggets. It seems like everyone wants the Nuggets. I don't know if I'd want the Nuggets right now. They're playing pretty good ball. What have you been seeing in Denver overall? They're obviously the 3 seed, if they can hold on to that. The Rockets 1 game behind them as we talk. But I feel like people are sleeping on Denver a little bit here as a team that can go a couple of rounds, all things considered. I'm really impressed with what I've seen so far.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we haven't even really seen the full version of the Nuggets,
Good call.
Jamal Murray has played 1 game. Gary Harris and Will Barton haven't played. So we've really seen Nikola Jokic, and we've seen a lot of Michael Porter Jr. And the early returns on Porter are obviously excellent. He can score the ball at the NBA level. That is no doubt about it. The defensive side is where things get a little bit sketchier with him. But I still think you want to play Denver versus wanting to play the Lakers or wanting to play the Clippers. So if you can't, if you can't get to 4 or 5, I think you want 6. So Utah seems kind of firmly planted in there. And if I was Denver, I would be incredibly happy with that. because Denver had the
Hmm.
chance to get up to the 2 seed, a couple of games ago, but they really haven't shown a ton of interest in it. I think it's because
Yeah.
they know that they can just blow the doors off of Utah.
What have you noticed about the Clippers over the last couple of, I guess, weeks? It's been weeks since we've been in the bubble. Seems like it was just yesterday that we started this crazy experiment. But I don't know, man. I'm so tempted to sell Clippers stock, given that I just haven't seen the defense come together yet. And I don't think it's for, it has to be some sort of a lack of effort. But man, it feels like they have so far to go in a very short period of time. If they have a first round series against the Mavs, that's not going to do anything to make, playing defense easier. I'm starting to get kind of worried about the Clippers overall. Am I crazy? Am I off base? How do you feel about LA's other basketball team?
I'm still very much in on the Clippers upside.
Okay.
Again,
Yeah.
at this point, really, it's upside because
Mhm.
we haven't seen Patrick Beverly and Paul George and
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard all play a full basketball game yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's and even when we did see those guys for minutes, they didn't have Lou Williams, they didn't have Montrezl Harrell. So it's a team that still is very much trying to put the pieces together. I would not be wanting to try to do that during the playoffs, but it
Right.
seems like that's what the Clippers are going to try.
And listen, Doc Rivers has always been a guy who's been like, forget the regular season. And Lord knows the Clippers have been all about that this year. Just forget the regular season. We'll figure it out come playoff time. But man, the Mavericks as a 7 seed are crazy good. I mean, it's criminal that team is the 7 seed, should these standings currently hold. And then beyond that, I'm just, the Clippers they're going to have something like 70 something games to have figured it out, to have just put together, some momentum where you can at least point to it and say, hey man, like I saw it for, a 2-week stretch in January. When they're on, nobody's beating them. I don't have that stretch of basketball to point to. They've had good games, don't get me wrong. There's no momentum with this team. So I'm starting to question, and maybe this is just overthinking it because we're in a bubble environment and everything seems fairly locked in. And, you're going to hyperventilate to a bunch of games just before the season starts because now there's outsized expectations on those contests, given the fact that they're in a damn bubble. But like, I don't know what to point to say the Clippers are really good, other than, well, they have 2 of the 5 best wings in the NBA. They have a crazy amount of talent. They have a really good coach. Like, all of those things, obviously good things to have. And you look at just the Clippers roster and you go, well, they should be the finals favorites. I mean, yes, the Lakers are very good, but I like the Clippers depth better. NBA playoffs, all about wings, all about guys who can score in the mid-range. They have 2 guys who can do that as well as anybody. I want to buy in on the Clippers. I want to be all in. But then I'm looking at it and I go, man, you have to give me some sort of a track record here. And they're, as you mentioned, going into the playoffs with 0 track record. And at some point, I don't know, maybe you just have to believe what they've been telling us for the last, I don't know, calendar year.
This is one of those new NBA things, right? If this was the old NBA, we would be looking at the Milwaukee Bucks and saying, well, this is the best team in the league. They're the title favorites because they have dominated during the regular season. But what we've kind of learned, or are starting to learn, is that the playoffs and the regular season are different animals at this point. So
Totally.
This is going to be an interesting playoffs. I mean, you've got so many different dynamics, but would you rather be where the Clippers are or the Lakers are right now? The Lakers, they've been playing awful basketball. The only team that has posted a worse net rating than the Lakers in the bubble are the Washington Wizards.
And the Washington Wizards are a god-awful basketball team. They don't even have halfway decent players. Their G League team could probably give the Wizards a run right now. You're right. I mean, who would have thought that not being able to guard point guards and not being able to shoot the 3 would be problematic in the modern NBA? I certainly didn't see that coming. I think it might be an Achilles heel for the Lakers. And as you know, I've been kind of down on LA. I've been higher on Houston. I again still hold some of this Clippers stock, but I'm getting nervous. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm getting nervous. I've been down on the Lakers stock overall just because I don't know where the depth is. And that 3-point shooting is really bad. And it's not like really bad in that it has the variance like most teams have because they're not, crazy. They're not the Warriors of 2016. Like we're talking about legitimately not putting up good percentages. They're not getting clean looks, even with LeBron James as a point guard. And they're not knocking them down when they do get clean looks. Like that is an Achilles heel. I know that the playoff game is a little bit different than the regular season game where it's just a 3-point shooting contest most nights. But you need to have dudes who can knock down shots. And even Danny Green, you have to question if he can knock down the big shots, at least at a consistent rate, game after game, series after series. It seems as if they just have a bunch of dudes who are streaky, and they're not good enough streaky to really count on them to make a bunch of 3-pointers. That's the name of the game in the NBA. I don't know, man. I'm not going as far to say that if the Blazers, who've been playing pretty darn good ball with Nurkic back, like if the Blazers make it as the 8 seed in that play-in tournament situation, and we'll talk about here in a second, like that the Blazers are going to give them a real run. But that series could get, be more difficult than maybe we would have initially thought, that 1v8 series. And again, I'm just looking at it. You go up against a Houston, you go up against a Clippers, like LeBron's going to need to be superhuman. And even when he puts up 30 points, apparently they can lose now. So I'm with you. What is stood out to you most about the Lakers other than them not caring for some games? Let's be real about that. They haven't cared for a couple of them here, but like what stood out to you in terms of what's going wrong for them? And is it something that you see as correctable?
Yeah, I think I always approach this stuff from like a betting perspective. And I think that we're going to get some value with the Lakers in the first round of the playoffs.
Ooh, okay.
Because the Lakers haven't looked good, but they haven't had anything to play for since the second night in Orlando. Meanwhile, Portland has been in playoff mode since day one of this restart. Dame Lillard is just casually dropping 50 points on everybody because it's needed. So the Portland Blazers stock is at an all-time high. All-time high because Lillard's playing so great. They've got Nurkic back. They look great because they're trying the hardest. And I'm not knocking Portland as a team at all. No. If Portland had Nurkic and Zach Collins and all these guys healthy all year, Gary Trent obviously playing, so much better in these restart. If they had all these guys, if they had all those guys playing that way, they would be solidly in the playoffs right now. So this is a better 8 seed than usual.
Yeah.
But the Lakers are still the number 1 seed in the West. And I think that we're going to get a line where it's kind of not a toss up, but the Lakers are only going to be slight favorites, I think, unless they really flip the switch these last couple games.
That will be really interesting to see where those lines come out and what kind of value you can get. You talked me into it, and let me throw this at you as a reason to be optimistic about the Lakers. They started playing Anthony Davis as a 5, like only took them 70 something games. But Anthony Davis as the 5, that's the answer. That's how you win a championship. You put Anthony Davis at the 5, LeBron at the 1, and you surround him with shooters. And even if the shooters aren't all that good, those guys are so good, they're going to lift both of them up. So no more of this Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee nonsense. Play your best player at his best position. That is center for Anthony Davis. So you got to feel good about Frank Vogel making that switch because I was skeptical if he ever would. Let's talk about the race for the 8. You got the Grizzlies who... Damn it, Grizzlies. Like, all you had to do was just get your act together, man. And Jaren Jackson goes down. That's obviously a blow, but this is inexcusable what's going on with the Grizzlies. Maybe they needed Jay Crowder the entire time. And then you got Portland, as you mentioned, playing great ball. You have the Suns playing better ball somehow, some way. And then your San Antonio Spurs, the team that you were hard on the entire time. You were pounding the drum for the San Antonio Spurs. And here they are, as we talk, 1 game back of, again, what are you doing, Memphis? 1 game back of the Grizzlies. How do you see this race for 8 shaking out? Because you have 2 teams that are really hot. Hell, you could even argue that the Spurs are in that camp. The Grizzlies on a downward trajectory, but man, they still have a half game advantage. This is going to be interesting, to say the least. Ultimately, is this one of these situations where just the schedule determines it, where you look at, I guess, who would have the easiest one? Maybe the Blazers. They get the Mavericks and the Nets. Even that, I don't know. I mean, we got some pretty darn good basketball games coming up. Maybe the Suns, 76ers and Mavericks, Spurs with the Rockets and the Jazz. The Grizzlies get the Celtics and the Bucks. I mean, maybe just whichever team goes up against the most resting team is going to end up being the 8 seed, and then get the 9 seed as well, because now we're basically guaranteed that 8-9 game. Who do you think the two teams are going to be, and who do you see coming out on top?
Yeah, I mean, Memphis is the real X factor here because, like you said, they do have the edge right now. If they win their next 2 games, they're the 8 seed.
Right.
But they're taking on the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks. Who knows how seriously those guys are going to take those games? So,
Yeah.
and Memphis has shown absolutely nothing so far.
They're just so flat, which is crazy because you watch them in the regular season and they always had juice. Like, they weren't very good, but they had juice to them. And now you watch them and you're like, man, you can just see the pressure weighing on them. I mean, I know they're a bunch of young kids and they're in a bubble situation, and, you know, you feel for them. This is a circumstance that, you know, veterans can handle probably better than young guys, but geez Louise, man, like, they are not handling themselves very well right now. And I feel bad for them, honestly. Like, I expected more than what they're giving, and I there's a little bit of sympathy involved here because it just doesn't seem like they're up to the challenge.
Yeah, I think that the rest of these teams, the teams that are chasing the Grizzlies, are going to keep on winning. You know, the Spurs are taking on the Rockets tomorrow or today, whenever you're listening to this on Tuesday. Right. They're taking on the Rockets with no James Harden. The Suns are taking on the 76ers with no Joel Embiid and no Ben Simmons. You know, Portland has Dallas, and Dallas did rest Porzingis and Doncic in their last game, so maybe they'll be back in now. But it seems like every West team has gone out of their way to make lives easy for the Blazers because they all want them to play the Lakers in the first round because they think that they can beat the Lakers.
That's that respect for Dame Lillard that Paul George wasn't showing. Everybody else is showing it to him.
Well, I mean, yeah, the coaching staff, clearly they pulled Paul George with like 5 minutes left in that game. You know, the Nuggets did the same thing when they played the Blazers too. They basically like, all right, Jokic, head on over to that bench over there. Yeah. And
go get tested, my big man. By the way, he's playing great ball.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. But yeah, like that, they're just going to keep winning because they just have to. You know, like they're gonna try hard. The other teams aren't. That's why this dynamic is so weird.
Yeah, it's super strange. Grizzlies with the Celtics and the Bucks. I mean, you can make the argument Celtics are locked in to the 3 seed. I don't think it's it's completely mathematically impossible for anything to change that. They're locked in at 3. So there's nothing they can do. I guess they're a young enough team that you can argue that they're going to give it a go for a half or so to get something, another couple games of Jaylen Brown looking like a dude. He's looked really good. Another couple games for Jason Tatum to continue to show what, the progression he's made in Kemba and all. Like, you can make the argument that the Celtics might give half an effort. The Bucks, there's no logical reason to think in that final game against the Grizzlies that Giannis is going to play. Like, it wouldn't make any sense. They've obviously been locked into the 1 seed for.
They rested him today with a toothache.
You know what I'm saying? Did they put down toothache?
Toothache.
That's wild. I mean, just listen. Best of luck to Giannis with his dental health. I mean, we should all take care of our mouths here, but
it is important,
dude. Just say rest. Like, just cut the BS. We're in a COVID world, man. Not enough time for pretense. Like, let's just call it what it is. Resting, no reason to play best player in NBA. Like, that should just be what they put down, and everyone will be like, oh, that makes sense. The East looks pretty locked in. So I'm just thinking, like, the Grizzlies might have a real opportunity here to rectify some of the wrongs that they've put out there, but they have to play with more juice. And I just never thought that I'd be saying that about a team with Ja Morant, that they need more energy and more juice. Let's talk about the Spurs for a second, because you've obviously been high on the Spurs since we started doing this bad boy. 1 game back at this juncture. I mean, yes, we should presume that the Blazers are the favorite. They've been there. They've done that. The Suns will never lose again. I mean, that's just factual. How does San Antonio sneak in here? I mean, how does San Antonio make it happen other than, let's be fair, I mean, luck. I mean, they're going to need a lot of luck, but I mean, is there anything the Spurs can do other than just take care of business and hope things break their way?
Yeah, San Antonio, unfortunately, got blessed or cursed, I should say, with the schedule. They've played 2 less games than
Yeah.
both Portland and Phoenix, before the restart.
Mhm.
So those two teams, if they finish, the same in terms of games back, but the Spurs have one less win and one less loss than those teams, the Spurs are going to lose on winning percentage.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
follow that?
It's tough. I mean, I was reading
It
today.
wasn't the most clearly worded
No,
explanation.
trust me, there is no way to clearly word any of this. According to the AP, there are two chances out of thousands of scenarios, but two scenarios in which the play-in race could be decided by less than 1,000% with winning percentages. That there are just certain ways, and basically the only way for that to happen is San Antonio going 2-0. You get some 1-1 situations, but there are ways where San Antonio goes 2-0 and they still don't make it.
Yep.
So a lot of luck has to go their way. And I'll say this, as cool as it is that there's a more fun race for 8, we do this for a living. This is our day in, day out. I'm still pretty confused. I still don't actually know what the hell's going on, if I'm being totally honest. 8-9, that hasn't even been made totally clear to me. I know if I had to answer the question, I know the answer to the question, but I don't feel great explaining it. No, okay, so if there's an 8-9, I don't feel great about that. You're also now dealing with which team is going to lose to the Lakers in the first round. So it's hard to get super excited about, the consolation bracket, essentially. People have been complaining NBA ratings are down. They thought that they would get a bigger bump starting out here, getting back in and having the bubble and all that. And it just hasn't shown up. And I think a big reason is because this is all very new and it's all very confusing. And you're dealing with the Spurs and the Grizzlies. Let's just call it what it is. I enjoy watching both of those teams, and they deserve to make it if they can win. But I don't know, man. I don't think anybody's making an appointment to watch the Phoenix Suns. And as you pointed out with, your explanation of the situation, it's really difficult. It's really difficult to kind of explain what the hell's going on. Plus all these teams resting odds. It's a hot mess, as you would expect from, bubble basketball. Let's go to Tuesday's games, though. Let's just kind of run through it. And as we talk, it stinks. Bubble basketball also apparently does not get lines until about 5 minutes before the game tips off, which, makes it really fun. But when you have so many guys resting and so many teams not giving a damn, I guess that makes some sense. Let's just run through some of the games for Tuesday, kind of give our thoughts on them. And I guess we have to give thoughts on Nets and Magic first. I can't believe that this is where we're at in life, but here we are. Nets and Magic. The Nets are playing pretty good ball, man. They're spunky.
The Nets, I think, have the second best winning percentage in the East in the bubble. They've gone 4-2. So they've been.
I mean, this is what when you have Kevin Durant and Kemba. Yeah, no, they're unbelievable, unbelievable. It's almost as if they, probably didn't need those superstars in the first place, but I digress.
Ooh, that's a spicy, muy caliente take right there.
Oh, here's what I'm saying. They had a good thing going, right? And I appreciate you go get Kevin Durant, you go get Kyrie Irving, one of those two more likely to lead you to a championship, and it wasn't the latter name. But I understand it. You're trying to take it to another level, but sometimes you let, perfect get in the way of good. And I thought they had a pretty good thing going. They had good vibes and good chemistry. And the entire year has been bad vibes and bad chemistry. Shocker. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving brought bad vibes and bad chemistry to Brooklyn. And now that those guys aren't there and, it's just kind of the young guys getting to do their thing, guess what? Good vibes, good energy, and, a little bit of good basketball. It's just funny how that works when you don't have, dudes coming in and sucking the soul out of the place. So, good for the Nets. It's a shame that it's going to be short-lived.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the culture that we live in. It's all about rings with a Z. It's rings culture, baby.
We're all about cash and tickets. That's what
we're about cover culture.
Cover culture. If the Brooklyn, New Jersey Nets can get us to cover a couple of games, that would be, listen, that's as good as a ring to us. What are we expecting out of the Magic going forward?
Honestly,
because of the Nets, they've got a little something, but what do we like out of Orlando?
I don't like anything about Orlando. I haven't all year. They've proved me right so far in the bubble. They've lost basically every competitive game that they've played. They did beat the Wizards, congratulations for that. But this game today, it's just a smorgasbord of injuries. You know, the Nets, no Garrett Temple, no Joe Harris, no Jared Allen, no Karis LeVert. On the Magic side, Michael Carter-Williams, Evan Fournier, Aaron Gordon, all doubtful. Terrence Ross already ruled out. So, like, it's basically going to be Nick Vucevic versus me and you tomorrow.
I'd actually tune in to watch that because I bet Vooch could easily get 40 on us. And we're big guys. A game like this makes me question if it was a good idea to bring 22 teams to the bubble. Like, maybe they should have just had a come to Jesus moment.
These are playoff teams. These teams are in the playoffs. Unless you wanted to just say, you know what, the East is 4-team playoffs and we're moving on. There's nothing we could do to avoid this.
No. What you just said is exactly what I think. But they should have just cut the fat out. You know, they were trying to get Zion involved. They were trying to spice some stuff up and bring in their new young star. And he's barely played and made everybody sad because of the way that the Pelicans have managed him. And now you have 22 teams in this bubble. The Phoenix Suns, listen, I'm going to sound like Draymond Green here, but like, who cares? Like, who cares? Like, they're not going to do anything if they make the playoffs. It's nice for the long term. They have a lot of talent. Maybe they can finish 9th next year in the Western Conference. Woohoo. Like the 7, I'll give them this with the Mavericks. Like, the 7 seed in the West is pretty damn good, but like the 8 seed isn't doing squat, and nobody in the East is doing squat outside of, I mean, where do we cut it off? The 4
after
seed,
Boston,
the 5
after
seed?
Boston, I'm cutting it. I'm going after 3.
That's fair too. So like, you have the COVID excuse. You could just call it like you see it, which is we're really only bringing teams that have a chance to win a title. Like, we're not going. It's so expensive to house all these teams. They're housing the Washington Wizards for no good reason. They're housing the Orlando Magic for no good reason. They could stay in Orlando. They could be in Orlando right now without having to be on the NBA dollar. Like, they're 32 and 39. They're 23 games back of first place. They're going to play the Bucks in the first round. Why are we bothering with this? Just give the Bucks a bye. That way Giannis doesn't get injured. Okay, we're moving on. Rockets and
we need to forward this video to whoever like the treasurer for the NBA is. We'll get you an internship over there.
It's just hey, you know, this thing that we have to create that's never been done before and it's going to cost us millions of dollars. What if we made it super inclusive? What if we just decided to invite damn near everybody except for the absolute worst of the worst teams? And even then, like, come on, man. Like, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Rockets Spurs should actually, well, there's no James Harden, so who knows if it's going to be a good game or not, but the Spurs need it to get in. Do we expect the Spurs to get that first of the 2 wins they need?
Yeah, so this one should at least be interesting from a betting perspective because Russell Westbrook is going to play, and I think that the perception that Westbrook is going to play will keep this line fair. You know, I'm not San Antonio maybe slight favorites, but the Rockets without James Harden, even with Russell Westbrook, are not the same team. They've actually posted a negative net rating with Westbrook on the court, Harden off the court this season.
I'm stunned.
Like, I am tired of the James Harden slander. All right. That guy is a scoring prodigy, and the Houston Rockets need every bit of offense that he gives them. If he posts a 40% usage rate, it's because it's the best thing for the team right now.
Yes.
So I'm definitely in on the Spurs in that game. As long as they're not, big favorites, which I doubt is going to happen with Westbrook playing. The one thing we do have to monitor here is that Derek White is questionable for the Spurs. He left their last game with a leg injury, and he has been arguably their best player in the bubble.
Yeah,
so
that's an easy argument to make. In fact, he's been.
I'd love to see him suit up before placing a wager on the Spurs. But either way, I think that the Spurs are the correct side in this game. Yeah. And I've enjoyed watching the young pace and space San Antonio Spurs. You've got Derek White, you've got Lonnie Walker, and you've got DeJounte Murray. And that is a exciting young trio that is going to maybe vault San Antonio right back into not necessarily title contention, but they're going to be a relevant team again. They've rebuilt on the fly. They just are that good. They've run that well.
It's incredible what happens when you don't have two guys trying to hog up a bunch of mid-range shots and you actually, play basketball like it's the year 2020. It's wild what's going on there. And you're right. I mean, they got a little spark to them too. Like it does feel like they really like the moment a little bit, which says a lot because as we've seen in this bubble, not every team can handle it. Team that's handling the bubble probably better than anybody. Well, save for DeAndre Ayton, who
what the hell?
I think the going conspiracy theory is that he missed his COVID test on Sunday because he was recording the Woj podcast.
All right. I mean, that's at least a semi-legitimate excuse because all day I've just been thinking, like, how do you miss a test in a bubble?
Dude, like a lot of guys have done it. I don't know
what
else
lost DeAndre. We lost DeAndre. Can somebody check Space Mountain? You head over to Splash Mountain. I'll hit Epcot. Yeah. We got to find him. The guy's 7 foot tall in a bubble. How did we lose him?
He's wearing all this purple Puma stuff. He should be the easiest person to spot on the planet. He's negative. He's fine. Not an overall COVID issue. And by the way, NBA's killing it. Who would have thought that, isolating everybody from the outside world would do wonders for containing COVID? But here we are. They're going to play.
It's almost like we should try that with everybody. We should try that with our regular society.
You're talking absolute nonsense there. There's no way that could work. I mean, what? I mean, it's not like a virus needs human beings to exist. It's they're playing the artist formerly. They're more like the 36ers at this juncture, just not fully up to par. I just don't know how you couldn't put all your money on the Phoenix Suns in this game. A sentence that I said in August of 2020. Put all of your money on the Phoenix Suns to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, the line might be 10, they were favored by 8 though today over the Thunder, and they took care of business there. So, Tobias Harris questionable, Al Horford questionable, Josh Richardson out, Joel Embiid out, Ben Simmons obviously out.
Good luck, Shake Milton.
Who are the 76ers going to play? Right, Matisse Thybulle.
It's Shake Milton and Brent Brown posted up in the corner.
I want to see a Matisse Thybulle 30% usage rate,
To be fair, Al Horford has been questionable the entire season in terms of how he fits with the Philadelphia 76ers. We actually have a line on this game. Celtics, Grizzlies. Celtics favored by 4.5. We got we got a total of 224.5. How you feel about those numbers?
I think they're pretty spot on. The Celtics haven't given any indication that they're going to rest anybody in this game, but we still got close to 24 hours before that game actually tips off.
Who knows? Someone might miss.
We'll see what happens. Brad Stevens did say he wants to get these guys some playing time over the last couple of games, so that they're feeling good heading into the postseason, which makes sense because Kemba Walker has been limited for the majority of this restart. They finally got him up to 30 minutes in their last game. It wouldn't shock me if they decided they were going to rest some guys in this game and then gear them up for their final game. But the best we can do is speculate right now, and we don't know. So as long as the Celtics aren't resting anybody, I don't see why they wouldn't be able to dispatch of the Grizzlies.
Well, it feels like this is already priced in with a 4.5 line, because if you watch the Grizzlies and you watch the Celtics, you're like, well, that's like a 7-8 point game. But no, they have to hedge a little bit here. And this is the crazy part of the bubble. NBA lines are notoriously late anyway. But when you're living in a bubble and no one, half the teams aren't trying, you're going to get even more weird lines set up. So this is the market here. Which way would you expect it to go? I mean, right now, if you can get in early, which way would you expect this line to go once we start getting some information, positive or negative, coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, the way to do it here is you take the Celtics early, because if it comes out that they're going to play all their guys, it moves up.
Yep.
If it comes out that the Grizzlies, they're going to be resting guys, you can always buy the Grizzlies at that point.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you
Right.
can and hedge out of your bet, but you're not going to be able to get Celtics minus 4.5 if the whole team is playing. So this is your opportunity to grab it if you like it.
Blazers and Mavericks might actually be a really good basketball game, which is, hey, that's a novel change given everything that's going on in the bubble. Blazers obviously fighting for a chance to play presumably the Grizzlies. We'll see. Play in that 8-9 play in series, and the Mavericks. As much as you can say, they can dog it a little bit. They're one game back of the Jazz for the 6th seed that gets to play Denver. I mean, if you can avoid the Clippers, you probably want to do that, even though I'm not exactly high on the Clippers right now. So I would imagine that Dallas is going to go for this one, despite the memo that apparently the NBA has sent out to everyone that you alluded to earlier to take it easy on Portland. Where do you expect this line to be? And how do you feel about the contest overall?
Portland's going to be favored. I'm going to say favored by 4 or 5 points, assuming that Dallas is at, close to full strength. Maybe they rest some of the guys that they played today. Maybe like they give Tim Hardaway Jr. the day off, or, Seth Curry's been banged up a little bit. Maybe they give him the day off. But if Porzingis and Doncic, those are the guys that we care about. So if they're in, I expect the Blazers to be slight favorites. And Dallas, like you said, offensively, incredible. They've been, heading into the bubble, they were the best offensive team in the history of the league in terms of net rating.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
And Luka Doncic is 22.
I'm telling you, I saw the previous best offensive team in the history of the game. I guess I've seen them both. I think the Rockets overtook them recently, but I saw that Warriors team. It's unfathomable that someone's better than them, but the Mavericks lineup, the best lineup that they can put on the floor, yep, that's about as good as it gets. That 1-2 punch of Porzingis and Doncic is just flabbergastingly good. And if you can buy Maverick stock now for the future, oh my God, get your hands on it. This is like a Motley Fool little ad underneath the written article. Like, I'm just telling you, you're going to feel like a moron if you don't get in on this stock now. I'm feeling that way about the Mavericks. The trajectory is crazy. But you think that the Blazers are the favorites? Is that just because they're playing harder and that they have more to gain by winning? Is this just a straight up effort line?
Yep. I mean, the Blazers need it, and Dallas doesn't. Even if Dallas plays their guys, there's not going to be that, we have to win this game or we're going home life or death mentality that Damian Lillard has had for 2 weeks.
Yep.
So,
and that's when Damian Lillard plays his best, unless it's last year's Western Conference Finals. Let's talk about the Sadness Bowl, which is the Pelicans and the Kings. And then let's move on to another basketball game, because both of these teams make me very, very sad. I was kind of high on the Kings. Luke Walton got embarrassed in the bubble. I mean, it's just laughable coaching. They did not play a lick of defense, which is the norm in the bubble, and somehow they took it to another level. And the Pelicans just kind of tricked themselves out of a chance of making the playoffs by not playing, maybe their second best player because Brandon Ingram's so good, but certainly a very good basketball player in Zion Williamson. Makes me question why they even brought him if they were going to use him in the way that they did. I don't know. Do we have any parting shots for the Pelicans or the Kings before they play a game Tuesday night that no one's going to watch on TNT?
At least the Kings tried, Did
they? I mean, I saw how they played defense. If that was trying, then I'm not sure their trying is good enough. Clearly, it's not good enough.
That's a fair point, but they at least decided, you know what, we're going to play De'Aaron Fox 38 minutes a game, and we're just going to see what happens.
Yeah.
So
that didn't go great, and I'm a big De'Aaron Fox fan, so oh boy,
you will never be able to explain to me why what the Pelicans did this bubble was smart.
No.
Zion is 20 years old.
Yep.
I understand he's missed a lot of basketball and he missed practices and he's a little out of shape. Don't you think that the best thing for his long-term development is to play in games that actually matter? The guy has played no basketball this year that actually matters. It's like he's going to be a rookie all over again next year.
They clearly just don't trust his body. I mean, not in they do not trust that his body can take the rigors of NBA basketball. There's no other explanation. And if that's the case, why the hell is he in Orlando? Like,
Yeah,
is this just to appease Adam Silver, who clearly rigged the entire thing so that Zion could play in it? Like, honestly, like that's the best going theory right now, because if this guy, they didn't feel comfortable with him playing 20 minutes a game, just 20. I mean, I'm not even asking for a lot here for a player who's clearly, when he's on the floor, outstanding, all-star caliber, all-pro caliber. Like, man, the entire thing just reeks to high heavens, and it doesn't feel like it's a direction. It just feels like they're stuck between stations where they're trying to get Zion some play, but not enough play to where it matters. And they have plausible deniability on both sides, which gives them actually no deniability whatsoever. I really like a lot of things that the Pelicans are doing overall in the macro, but in the micro, I'm with you. Like, this was malpractice across the board. Either play the kid or don't, but pick a goddamn direction. Like, I just don't get it.
To switch sports, it kind of reminded me of when the Washington Nationals shut down Steven Strasburg when he was like the best pitcher in baseball early in his career. And it was like, we're a young team. We'll be back. And I mean, they did end up winning a title. But you know, they thought it was going to be with Bryce Harper, who wasn't there. You know, like they had it took them longer to get back than I think that they would like to admit. And I don't think that the window for the Pelicans is as wide open as they think it is. You know, if they want Brandon Ingram, they're going to have to max him. And is he a good player? Yes. Does he deserve a max contract? Debatable. And, you know, same thing is with coming with Drew Holiday right around the corner.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm
it's
with
one
you.
thing. It's one thing when you're building around a young guy and you have tons of cap flexibility and you can, you know, put the team together to peak right as he's peaking. They need to basically push all their chips into the middle of the table now. So we'll see. I honestly,
their chips in the middle of the table. I mean, they don't have enough chips.
I hope it works out for the Pelicans, because watching Zion play is something like there is no other Zion in the league right now. Just a pure bully. It's like watching Zach Randolph if Zach Randolph was the best athlete on the court.
If Zach Randolph could jump over a phone book.
You're right. And it's fun to watch. So I'm hoping that they can play better, play more meaningful minutes next year. And you know what? This is not all on the Pelicans. It's on Zion too. He needs to show up in kick-ass shape next year. And he's a child, so I get it. Yeah. He's about 10 years away from like cutting, you know, carbs out of his diet and going plant-based. You know, we're about 10 years away from Zion truly committing to nutrition and stuff like that. But he needs to at least like take the first step in this offseason.
Man, I really, really hope that he is the kind of physical freak that defies explanation as to how he can do the things that he does as often as he does them, given the size and his leaping ability. Like, clearly there's a question of how the hell does he do it? I hope that the longevity is part of that equation too, because I go back to what I said earlier. It doesn't feel like the Pelicans trust his body to play the sport of basketball the way that he plays the sport of basketball, and he's 20. Like, if you're going to coddle him because you don't trust his body, like, he's not going to turn into a 215-pound player. It's just not in his DNA, like literally not in his DNA. He is a chonky boy. Like, you're not going to get him down there. He'd be useless for you down there. If they don't trust him to play basketball the way he wants to play basketball, if they're trying to stretch this out and flatten the curve of his injuries, I mean, now is not a good time to do it. Just don't bring him. Just don't bring him. And I'm really worried that Zion's NBA career is going to be defined by all the games that he didn't play, as opposed to the games that he did play, because the Pelicans are coddling him. And again, I think they have reason to coddle him. I think that there's a lot of reasons to question how long he can play in this game. But man, if he is doomed to go out early, can we at least get this wild flash of talent for more than 15 minutes a game? Because whatever they just did was a waste of everybody's time. And including Adam Silver's, who again just brought all these teams down there so that Zion could play. And here we are, he barely played, and all these teams are still, you know, eating room service every night, which ain't cheap. Bucks and Wizards. Less said about the Wizards, the better. Who is the best player who is going to play for the Bucks in this game? How far onto the bench do we have to go to see the best player on the Milwaukee Bucks for this contest?
I think Giannis plays. I don't know. Maybe it's a real serious. Maybe it's a real serious toothache. Maybe it's a one of these like a root canal or something. I think I think everybody else sits. I think all the guys that played today sit, and Giannis gets a
Giannis,
light run.
Why don't you play, Giannis? Why don't you play the Wizards by yourself for about 15 minutes?
Yeah, just get a light. It's like just break a sweat. So
probably not right.
It's going to be interesting to see what this line comes in at. I mean, if we knew that everybody on Milwaukee, if we knew how everybody on Milwaukee was going to sit, they would still be favored in this game with, Dante DiVincenzo as their leading option.
Pat Connaughton as a number one scorer sounds pretty good to me. Let's look at Wednesday's slate real fast here and just go through them bang, bang, bang. Pacers, Rockets. If James Harden's back, that might actually be a fairly interesting game. Don't know how much the Pacers are going to throw it into the tank, given that they're in a 4-5 battle, and also they kind of got to get something going here. Let's talk about TJ Warren for a second. I mean, we've known that TJ Warren's a pretty darn good player. If you actually look at the numbers, you realize, oh, this dude's been putting up buckets for a while now, but holy crap, TJ Warren. I know it dipped down a little bit recently here, but dear God, what got into him?
He's learned how to shoot. He was always a guy that got you his points, but he did it, by being crafty, by getting to the foul line. If he's going to be a 40% 3-point shooter or thereabouts, he's a very good player.
Oh yeah. Raptors and the 36ers. I mean, Raptors all day, every day. Do we feel like Toronto is being slept on at all, or are they properly rated in the eyes of the public? Because I can't seem to get a read on the situation. One day I'm being told that they're a real title contender and everyone else is stupid for overlooking them. And then the next day I kind of watch them and go, yeah, they look about like the third or fourth best team in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I still haven't made up my mind on the Raptors. It's like you said, there are some games you watch them and you're like, the continuity that this team has in a year where there's just so much weird stuff happening, maybe that is more important than ever. Maybe the fact that these guys have all played together and won a title and went through the battle last year, maybe that pushes them over the top. But the last I saw, they were up to plus 1,000 to win the title, which was the fourth highest odds. No, thank you at that price.
No, there goes the value. Heat and Thunder. I don't know. I mean, you have any thoughts on Heat and Thunder? I mean, they're both good teams. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disparaging here. They're both really good and interesting teams. It's just like
this is late season. This is late season basketball on the bubble, baby. It's like, you don't even know who's going to play. We don't know who's going to play tomorrow, let alone Wednesday.
They're going to bring out Ronnie
I would be
Cycli.
shocked if Chris Paul. I'd be shocked if Chris Paul played in this game. They played him today, even though they rested Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Danilo Gallinari, which was weird. I'm not sure why they didn't just rest everybody, but I would have to imagine that it's CP3's term to rest in that game. So
who knows if Jimmy Butler's going to play in that one either. I guess depends maybe on what happens with that Pacers-Rockets game in the 4-5, or maybe the Heat just don't give a damn. And again, who gives a damn about home court advantage in a 4-5 matchup? Because there is no home court advantage. Clippers and Nuggets, the final game on Wednesday. That's an ESPN game. Maybe the Clippers decide this is the game that we turn it on for. Maybe this is the one where they just show everybody, oh, we actually can flip the switch. I've covered the Warriors for the last 6-7 years now. And the narrative of them for the last couple of playoffs that they were actually in before they were the worst team in the NBA was flip the switch. Can they flip the switch? Can they actually start playing defense at an NBA level? And last year they didn't flip the switch until like game 6 in Houston. Maybe the Clippers have the ability to just flip the switch. They certainly have the talent to do anything they want on the floor. Do we think that one, they put anybody decent out there, and two, that they actually try on defense? Because I need to see both of those things to feel good.
I honestly have no idea. The Clippers.
Yeah, I know. I'm just looking for confirmation here.
You would think they'd want to get some good vibes going into the playoffs, but who knows?
Who needs
I'm
those?
more. I'd like to see Denver get get Gary Harris and Will Barton back on the court at some point. I would not want their first minutes in 6 months to come in the playoffs, but who knows?
If it's against the Jazz, I mean, who knows? Any parting thoughts here, Matt LaMarca? Hit me with your best shot right now before we get out of here, before I have to say anything mean about any of these teams anymore. I felt very negative in that pod.
Yeah, we took a lot of shots today.
Listen,
I would say
shots were there to be taken. What am I supposed to do? I'm going to take shots when I see shots. Jamal Crawford, volume shooter.
Betting in the NBA right now, there is an edge. It may not seem like there's an edge, but the edge is monitoring the news. Okay. You want to be able to beat the sports books to react to the news. A lot of people bet that way all year, Get the alert that Giannis is out, boom, fire before the sports book can change the line. And you can do that. You need to find the right news source, somebody that you trust that's going to give you the information as soon as it comes in. But if you can find that, and it does exist out there, you can beat the sports books to adjust these lines before the numbers, come down. So we've done a lot of speculative talking today, but we don't know. We're not in the locker rooms.
Exactly. And Lord
when
knows
the news comes in,
the bubble. Never invite us.
Yeah, I would really hurt Adam Silver's dollar in the bubble.
Yeah, you thought it was expensive feeding the Washington Wizards. Wait until you get me and LaMarca in there.
Find the sources, beat the dumpers. That's my advice betting from now until the playoffs start. Once the playoffs start, we can throw the speculation out. We can start going back to handicapping games and talking about teams that are overvalued, undervalued, matchups, all that good stuff. But right now, your goal is to be ahead of the books on the injury information.
3 ways to win: be faster, cheat, or be smarter. Come playoff time, you got to be smarter. But right now, you can just be faster. And we never, ever condone cheating here on the Live Movement Podcast.
Only if you're not going to get caught. Then I condone it.
That's not cheating. That's just being smarter. All right. If you guys haven't already checked out BlitzBet, you got to do it. BlitzBet.eu. Do all your gambling there. If you're a Canadian resident, listen, if you're a Canadian resident, you got some stuff going for you right now. Good times afoot.
Good time.
And, listen, the Blue Jays might not be around, but they're just over the border. You'll be okay. Put some money down on those bad boys playing in Buffalo at, I don't even know the name of the field. It looks lovely, though. I'm feeling very optimistic about Vlad Jr. and the boys. BlitzBet.eu is the site you want to hit up, and there's always good action there. Matt LaMarca, tell the people where they can find you on the internet machines.
You can find me everywhere.